Good afternoon. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News, coming to you from our digital desk, continuing our coverage on the Stadium Showdown. Of course, all eyes now turning towards the Ohio State Senate, as it will be the Senate that takes up House Bill 96. That is the state budget that does include $600 million in bonds for the Browns Dome Stadium project. We don't need to remind you of the ambitious project from the Haslam Sports Group slated for Brook Park and the controversy that comes with it. It's more than just a dome. There are plans for hotels, retail, office space surrounding the dome. I always go back to my phrase that think of it as a Crocker Park with a stadium in the middle kind of idea. We've seen this played out in other cities across the country, but now it comes to our back door. There is a new report that has just been released from the Ohio Legislative Service Commission, and I want to explain what the LSC is. This is an office within the Ohio legislature, and they do work, nonpartisan work. If a Republican, if a Democrat has questions about numbers, about budgets, about legality, about analysis, they implore the office of the Legislative Service Commission. They do their research, they come up with an answer and hand it back to whether it's a senator, whether it's a representative, but it is, again, supposed to be non-biased. And a new report just released today from the LSC saying, and I want to quote, "The Haslam's economic impact projections are overly optimistic and lack transparency." Of course, this idea of paying back $600 million in bonds, which are basically loans taken out by the state, the Haslam Sports Group has said, hey, we're going to generate so much tax revenue with this project, it will be more than enough for the state to pay back those bonds. $30 million a year for 25 years. There are a lot of numbers that we've just given to you, but we want to welcome in now Ohio State Senator Nikki Antonio. She's a Democrat from a Democrat from Lakewood. She is also the leading Democrat for the state Senate. Senator Antonio, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking me to chat about this.
Yeah, we think this is really important, obviously. There's such an impact, not just for Northeast Ohio and if you're a Browns fan, but this has an impact on dollars that are being spoken for by the state. We've got to be very clear about this. We hear this too often when people have this debate out in public. Oh, I don't think my tax dollars should be taken away from schools and spent on stadiums. Not exactly what this is. This is a $600 million loan. It doesn't come out of the state budget. It doesn't come from mental health processes and agencies, but it is a loan that the state does have to pay back. Now that we've got that clear, what do you take from this new report? What stands out from the LSC?
Well, first of all, I want to let you know that I asked for the LSC report to begin with, because as we approach our due diligence in working on the budget, I thought it was very important for us in the Senate to have this opinion that is totally, as you said, nonpartisan, but that looks through the lens of the best interest of the state of Ohio and the people of the state of Ohio. I mean, what it says to me is that the proposed plan raises serious legal and financial concerns. I mean, it said in the report that those projections are overly optimistic at best, but even their own consultants admitted that the analysis wasn't intended to justify financing. I think the analysis that they produced for all of us, the Haslam Group, was about getting people on board with the concept and the idea, but not financing. And we, the legislature, have to make this decision about whether or not we can put the full faith and trust of the state of Ohio's bonding capacity to be able to fund something like this. And what we're finding out is that the new jobs that they were projecting are simply not the windfalls that they promised. We should be very, very cautious about going forward and really dig in a whole lot deeper before we commit any bonding capacity from the state of Ohio. That's
And,
what this report tells me.
and before we go further, I need to ask you this because I ask every Republican, every Democrat that we have on Stadium Showdown, where do you stand on the Browns issue? You're from Lakewood. Do you think the Browns should stay downtown, or are you for the ambitious project in Brook Park?
Well, here's the thing. I look at this a little bit differently. First of all, I'm from Lakewood. I live in Lakewood. But I represent almost the majority of the city of Cleveland, as well as some western suburbs, and including Lakewood. So, but I have the interest of Northeast Ohio at stake. I think they're at stake when we consider this. My personal opinion is that we should be looking at a proposal that continues to keep the Browns in Cleveland. They are, after all, the Cleveland Browns. But also that any proposed change or move should not come at the detriment to the city of Cleveland. I mean, that's part of the reason why I asked for the information from LSC for them to crunch the numbers for us. Because, and clearly what this report lays out is that, again, we're being told by the Haslam Group that their proposed project in Brook Park would enhance the entire region. What this report shows us is it is not enhancement. It is taking from one part of Northeast Ohio, putting resources into another part of Northeast Ohio without some big double return. Actually, it would not be the ambitiously exaggerated return that we've been told.
And I want to get to that question. In the report, it talks about some of the newly created positions, and I'm quoting from the report here, some of the newly created positions in the mixed use district will come at the expense of similar jobs in Cleveland. Now, what the Haslams are saying is that if they are building a stadium that's going to have housing and hotels around it, that there is going to be retail that moves in. But what that statement says is, let's just say, for example, and I was talking about this with one of our executive producers, let's say Chipotle wants to build in and around this area. It's not to say that the Chipotle downtown Cleveland is going to pick up and move out to Brook Park and close in downtown. But that's kind of what this report says, that this idea of 6,000 new jobs is going to come at the expense of downtown Cleveland, yes. Whether it's the Barley House, whether it's any of these businesses that do thrive on a Brown Sunday. None of them have said, well, then we're going to pick up and leave downtown and go to Brook Park. But that's kind of what this report says.
Well, and again, look, I'm a child. I was a teenager in the 70s, and I watched downtown Cleveland's retail totally be transformed and be cannibalized and taken out of downtown Cleveland when Randall Mall opened. And so I have seen this before. We saw it before when there was the moving out to Richfield to take the Cavaliers out to Richfield and the Coliseum. Is that still exist today? No, it doesn't. They actually came home to Cleveland, to downtown Cleveland. And I believe there's a wisdom there. And it's not just a feeling or an idea. There are economic reasons why it makes sense to maintain these kinds of facilities in the central city.
So your contention is that both of these can't work. Downtown Cleveland can't work if Brook Park works. Your contention, according to this report, is they cannot coexist.
I'm based on the information that we're receiving from this report. Yes. That is my concern, and that is my conclusion after seeing this.
It is, that's an interesting example. And here's another one from the report that this facility would attract 1.5 new visitors a year. That was a fact put out by the Haslam Sports Group. This report saying they don't see that. The Haslams claim that the new Brook Park Stadium would attract an estimated 1.5 million new visitors. Was found by LSC to be overly optimistic. This idea of, and we've seen the renderings and the huge concerts and the Final Four and the Super Bowl, the fact that you can only have 3 concerts, or that we've seen in the past 3 concerts in that current stadium, but yet you could have concerts year round in a dome. What is your feeling? Why is that number overly exaggerated?
Well, because we have other venues. Let's think about the other venues that we have in the city of Cleveland right now that will also be cannibalized, taking these kinds of attractions out to a suburb outside of Cleveland. There are events that happen at the at both our baseball field as well as the Cavs facility. And so we're talking about taking things out of Rocket as well.
We're going to give you the final word here. Well, before we get to your final word, what do we expect the schedule is for the Senate? Do we know? We've heard rumors of maybe a June 12th vote. This has to be on the governor's desk by June 30th. What do we expect the schedule to be for the Senate?
Well, I, like you, am hearing that there's going to be, it's anticipated that there's a very ambitious schedule that will have this be done mid-June as far as the initial vote. Look, we have to then go to conference committee because we have to work at how did the budget come from us to us from the House, and then what does the Senate change, and then we come together for conference committee. That happens after the Senate vote. So there are 2 more opportunities to change this budget, one in the Senate, one in conference, and actually the governor gets the final word in terms of whether he line item vetoes anything in the budget before it goes into being. So we have some opportunities. I think what I hoped for in asking for this report, I want you to know I've also asked the Attorney General for his weighing in on the constitutionality of this funding package, because I am also questioning whether or not this is even constitutional to do it this way. Right now we're hearing some folks saying yes, some folks saying no. So we're asking for an opinion from the Attorney General. We have to do our due diligence with this. And while the money, the specific funds for this loan will not be taxpayer dollars, taxpayers will be on the hook for the bonding capacity should it fail. Then the state of Ohio would have to come in and pay that out of the state's coffers. So it is very much important for us as stewards of these funds for the state of Ohio to make sure that we are doing everything possible to protect and be what's in the interest of the people of the state of Ohio.
We've also heard that there might be a way to do this with both the governor's suggestion of doubling the tax on sports gambling companies and perhaps maybe a hybrid, maybe $300 million in loans and raising 10% tax on the sports gambling companies. Are you for some sort of hybrid or are you not even there yet?
I'm open to having a conversation that puts the best interests of Ohioans in the forefront, but I can tell you that that includes consideration for fully funding our public schools, for making sure that people have access to health care, that we take care of pregnant women and their babies, and the long list of things that we should be doing that should be a priority for this budget.
We are speaking with State Senator Nikki Antonio. She's also the Democratic leader in the Ohio Senate. Senator, we're going to give you the final word here. This is an important project. It is a multi-billion-dollar project when it gets down to it. What do you want to leave with our viewers?
That we have to get this right. That we have to make sure we have done our due diligence, we have looked into this, and that we come up with the best plan possible for the people of the state of Ohio, but also the city of Cleveland and all of the Browns fans throughout the state.
Excellent, Senator Antonio. We certainly appreciate the time. We know it is going to be a busy few weeks down in Columbus as the Senate grabs hold of House Bill 96. Good luck down in Columbus.
Thank you so much.
We certainly appreciate it. We're going to wrap this up. Again, this is just a part of our continuing coverage of Stadium Showdown. We have a show every Friday, almost every Friday, that we have dedicated to all things Brown Stadium and any new information that comes out. This new report from the LSE is a major piece of what's going to go into the Senate's showdown when it comes to $600 million in funding from the state. If we have any other breaking news, it'll be here on our digital platforms. Otherwise, look for 3.5 hours of news and first alert weather on Channel 19 coming up at 3 o'clock. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a great afternoon.
From Cleveland's most accurate weather team, this 19 News is everywhere. Download our CTV apps and follow us